we'll start by figuring out what level your kids are at. And I'm talking mostly about junior high. And then we'll go into some lessons because, hey, you want to share a laugh with your students. The first thing you want to do is start a humor notebook. And this is actually physically writing down where your kids are at. You are going to write down any humorous situations that you can think of right at this moment. You're going to keep that notebook somewhere in your desk and pull it out and write down anything funny that happens or things that the student thinks are funny, because that's what you're trying to figure out. Where are they? What level of humor are they at? As you know, kids start out laughing at silliness in grade 6 level. Then they progress to slapstick. They love slapstick. And then we get into cerebral. So somewhere in there, your students are going to be. So here's my list that you are writing down in your notebook. What are the humorous interactions kid to kid, teacher to kid, kid to teacher? Because there's all sorts of dynamics in there. Do I have anything else on my list? If you're student teaching, you have a great opportunity to watch what kind of humor is evolving in the classroom, because that's part of your job is observation, right? So as a student teacher, take advantage of that. As you're writing down all these humor notes, ask yourself as you go through, is any of this hurtful? Is it all hurtful? Because you are trying to figure out where they're at. And hurtful humor is definitely part of our lessons. So write that in as you go through your observations. Let's spit that out. Your observations of the humor as you go along. And if all of it's hurtful, they need lessons real bad. Here's something I came up with as I was teaching. I would cut out pieces of paper all the same size, or if you have the money in the budget, go buy some papers that are all the same size. But I would use, here we are, little hearts. And hey, I was teaching art. So cutting out those hearts were like therapeutic to me. Anyway, they're all the same size, whatever shape they are, and hand them out to the students, beginning of a class, end of a class, doesn't matter, and ask them this question. I love, and insert your name, but I'll say mine. I love Mrs. Carter's social class because, make sure you say that first, then pause, then say, and if I think it's funny, then you win money. So you have ready chocolate coins. And hey, who doesn't like stale chocolate, right? So what you're doing when you're doing this game with the kids is you're finding out what they think is funny. And sometimes people don't participate in humor in the class, but if you can encourage them to write something down, you've got a gold mine of what their humor is. All right. Now, the second part to this game is, well, first, before we get into that, I must say, I would ask the kids not to sign their name because I wanted them to actually genuinely tell me what they thought was funny without, the fear of repercussions on that. So then, after I gathered up all the pieces of paper, because I've got improv background, I would go through them right then and there if I had the time. If the bell rang, I'd start the next period, or you can do it so you start at the next period and you have a chance to go through those hearts. You might add in some of the things you thought were funny just to see if they think it's funny as well. So, like I said, having done improv, I would read them right away and add my comments. And I would see what the kids as a general group thought was funny now. And if they laughed at something that wasn't hurtful, make sure you remember that part. I would hand out chocolate coins. All anonymity goes to the wind when everybody's laughing, and they're happy to come up and get their chocolate coin. But you are doing this exercise for way more than giving out a chocolate coin. You start your lessons by asking them to take out a humor notebook as well and write down the question and their answer, not to be shared necessarily. So my first question always was, what is humor? And if they don't get humor words, say, what do they find funny? And they'll write it down. And you can, if you feel comfortable doing this, I liked it. I would have a chart paper and I would start writing down title, what is humor? And then I'd write down all of their answers. And I just put a check mark beside something if kids came up with the same answer. But I didn't allow them to share that before they wrote it down. Sometimes I'd ask them to tell a friend what is funny, maybe come up with a better answer. You can take this wherever you want to. You're a teacher, you know what to do. So you're writing down what is funny, what is humor. Just leave that sit for a while. Then the next time you see them, ask the students what's appropriate humor. What is good humor? Now, they're not going to know this probably, so you can start the question with what's not appropriate, and they know. They'll come up with all those answers. Racist humor is not funny. It's not to be shared. It's not to be said in your classroom. So you are going to start your next chart paper by writing down humor rules. And you start with what's not appropriate, what is appropriate, why we laugh. You're writing this on a chart and you're letting that class own it, because each class you teach will have a different set of answers. So if you do like we used to do 8A, 8B, you'd have 8A's class named down and then their rules. And so if you have the room, you can put those rules up and point to them if somebody is doing something inappropriate. And you can reinforce that all year. They have the rules, they know what they're doing. If you have those chart papers up in your room, you can start a discussion anytime. You can have a child speak about something that happened in the locker room that happened to me. And somebody, some kind of strapping young man, told me how sexist the humor was in the locker room. And that's something that can be addressed in your class. Just take a minute. It's not going to deter the rest of your teaching. It's going to add to it. This is my commercial break. If you would like to have all of my humor lessons, please go down to the show notes and get them for free. Now, the last thing I want to say about humor is, if you've gone through some of these exercises and you just don't feel comfortable with this class getting humor lessons, don't do them. You are going to make that decision in every classroom, and you can teach 2 grade 8 classes. One works with humor, one not so much. But hey, we're in this together, teachers. Try humor lessons.